Well, maybe it'll elicit some sort of Garrosh control taking away from Fury. Let's find out. Game 2 is going to take place on Warhead Junction.
They're doing this thing where they're picking maps that they don't want to play versus GFE. It's like the same thing where Tempo has shown preference towards Warhead in the past, so I might be over-extrapolating data from this, but at the same time, to qualify for BlizzCon, they have to get through SSG as well as Gale Force. And Gale Force, I think Tempo is the kind of team to have the confidence to say, let's fight straight up, let's play macro and see what team comes out on top. So from that perspective, being able to play maps that are on the unconventional maps, on Braxis, on Warhead, and maybe we'll see something like Towers later, really hides the information that Gale Force is seeking right now. And I think that's really smart in the map choice pick-ban process.
I completely agree. And though we might not be able to say for actual fact that is the strategy to go with.
It's not for sure, but I mean, it's...
The Warhead Junction for me says we were right. Like at first I was kind of like, maybe we're pushing this a bit far, but they have displayed Warhead Junction as their #1 priority for a short period of time at the beginning, I want to say, of phase #2. Then Tempo Storm struggled continuously onto the map, was unable to win the strategies in the same manner that they had done in the past, and then immediately pulled away into value. The fact that this is just suddenly out of nowhere, right back at the top, to me says we have no intention of playing this map in a Gale Force like we've hypothesized. Yeah.
Well, we've seen so much Zeratul from Space Station. Do you guys think that we're going to continue to see them prioritize this hero at this point?
I don't like it personally.
Okay.
It's been hit or miss, even in the games where they've been successful with it. I really would like them to put Equinox on a different style of hero. I think he's very proficient on that sort of Vala, so if they can prioritize the Vala differently, I really would like to see Equinox on a ranged hyper carry.
Would be good here when you have the Hungering Arrow build. You can try to make sure that you're fitting to the Warhead Junction meta of making sure you get a boss just about as early as you possibly can. So that is a good possibility for him there. Maybe even a Greymane. We know that Space Station has liked Greymane in the past, and he can do kind of the same thing for them. So let's get into it. Game 2 with Tempo Storm currently leading 1-0.
Yeah, heavy siege-oriented auto attackers are very strong on Warhead just because of the PvE damage they can bring to the table. So that's why, like, sometimes you'll see Greymane, sometimes you'll see Vala. They both have tools to, in a situation where there's a base race or a boss race, they have the tools necessary to make it happen for their team.
So what do we assume here for Space Station Gaming? Is there any absolute things that they have to rid of, since it is a bit of a wild map here?
When Tempo used to choose this map leading up to Midseason Brawl and shortly after, they put a heavy priority on Abathur. However, I think times and meta has changed since then. So if you were to ask me a few months back, which there would be a huge Abathur priority from Space Station to ban, I don't know if that's the case anymore. Tempo Storm is still capable of playing it, but overall the meta on this map seems very Siege Force oriented, where you just force a team fight on boss. At least the North American meta seems to be that way. So I don't know if they'll prioritize the Abathur. Potentially ETC.
Space Station doesn't play as much Illidan, but there's still a possibility for Tempo to play Illidan, I think, on this Battleground too, unless maybe they've shifted away from that, but...
It depends, yeah, if they want to go into the global oriented playstyle.
There you go. Abathur ban.
Okay, wow.
Took them a bit longer than I would have expected, the fact that that ultimately came down to the decision here for Space Station Gaming, but it also, to me, says a bit of maybe not necessarily the map situation that they expected themselves to be in here with Tempo Storm. Just that amount of thought process to a first ban at a game, I automatically go, not as confident as I'd like to see for Space Station.
It definitely, like, using your time pool on the second ban, for example, is something a lot of people will do and you won't question it. But using your entire time pool on the first ban, when you've had a break between the games and you've prepped prior to the series, it does kind of show like a little bit of second guessing. But they end up going with the Tassadar here. Not prioritizing a global from SSG, but this leaves open Task Tracer for Equinox.
Which is debatably, you know, one of his best hyper carry style strategies. So automatically off of what we took from game 1 going into this one, I want to be a Tracer before the secondary ban. And
I think Tempo Storm knows that as well as us. So I'm curious to see what 2 picks here they have to prepare for that potential Tracer, because Tracer is very, very good on Warhead, again, in the sense that it's large, has large rotations, and she has a lot of room to run around and chase frogs and bubbles.
Maybe we'll see Tempo play, I like that. Brightwing again. Cawthon Luck showed a great Brightwing in the last game.
Excellent Ice Block too. Like a lot of people, he deviated from like the standard build a bit. I agree, it was really good.
Yeah. And then there's still ETC up. Sometimes we'll see ETC because his armor can help deal with those early game pulse bombs. And to be more of a global, but we'll get Vala and Morales back.
Vala Medic's scary into Task Tracer though, guys.
Just because both of those targets are rather vulnerable to burst, and let's be real here, Lieutenant Morales is extremely vulnerable to the Tracer. Oftentimes she just, I mean, she can't do anything about it, right? You can't say, well, out-grenade her, because then all of a sudden she, if you by any chance somehow hit it, she has another dash almost 100% of the time.
By tempos 3-4, I'll know if they intend to let the game get past level 10, because theoretically what they could do against a Task Tracer, I was going to bring up the Brightwing. The Brightwing was the most crucial part, because they showed that in the double support last game, but Brightwing protects Medic against a Tracer very well due to the spell armor as well as the polymorph, so denying the Brightwing secondary support's really good. I expect a Space Station Lucio ban, honestly. But they got exactly what they wanted, Task Tracer.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of mobility, a lot of potential to dive, and both of those now can synergize as that dive duo on top of Lieutenant Morales, so Tempo Storm has immediately got to be considering a lot of those heroes that can save Lieutenant Morales in these type of situations. To me, I automatically go always to the Falset. We talked about yesterday as why I do like the rise of Falset into the meta. I think he should be a bit higher priority, so much so that I wouldn't even hate the world where if maybe Space Station Gaming wanted to ban that out.
So Tempo Storm opts in to ban the Dahaka. After banning the Malthael themselves, I think does kind of say to me they don't want to play a long macro game. I think they want to try and end this game early. Largely just due to the fact that Dahaka could have worked well with their team composition if they wanted to play slow and they had pick priority, but they decide to opt against it, which denying it from SSG I think is smart.
So Tyrael then? Tyrael Illidan?
Yeah. I mean, that would be a really good start. Also provides more of those safety nets to be able to make sure that Lieutenant Morales isn't too bad.
I mean, SSG's got to ban Tyrael or Lucio, I feel like, with the 1-2 tempos shown. If they don't do that, I'd be surprised, just because of the fact that Tempo Storm is already showing another amoeba style where they just clump together and they try and force objective team composition.
Dang, I love that amoeba style. Become one.
I think it was Prismat who coined that phrase.
Yeah?
Yeah, because he's like,
That's
no, just stay as an amoeba. But Spuds tends to say it the most, I think.
They go with Zarya.
Oh, okay. That's a fair ban, too. I kind of overlooked Zarya in this draft. It makes sense to ban her out as well. But now Lucio and Tyrael are available. Sonya ETC. That's pretty scary, too, into a Tracer.
Yeah, the Tracer's going to have a lot of things to...
Poison Spear does like 80% of Tracer's health.
Yeah, and Tassadar Shields, and yes, the Polymorph to remove the self-healing of Sonya are nice tools, but by no means is that an immediate, stall out. And that one hero can have that big of an impact on the Trinity that we already see out of Space Station is a bit concerning into the draft.
And Brightwing's like pretty low on green heals overall, so like when Tracer gets poked out, it's not like she has a Malfurion or like a Stukov or something to just instantly sustain back up. So that changes the dynamic of the Task Tracer a little bit. It becomes more centric about the one-shot execution and less about the poking and prodding that it usually is used for.
Which currently that is an option considering there's only one support, but Tempo Storm has a last pick slot where they could move into that secondary support to buy that time and be able to peel it off.
So I think maybe, but from the perspective of Tempo, Sonya is a good Zarya replacement in the sense that in an Amoeba-style composition and you're trying to end the game early, she contributes a lot of siege damage and is really good in those early boss fights.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Tempo's kind of taken a page out of something we showed against GFE, for example. I expect them to try and end this game early. But they end up going with the Garrosh. Garrosh is very good against Vala if Vala slips up a little bit. Overall, that's a very volatile matchup.
And we are back to Cothamluck playing Lili. I feel like we can't make it through a double support series for Tempo Storm without getting at least one Lili from
we've seen him
Cothamluck.
on Brightwing and on Lili.
I know, those are his heroes.
The role distribution is
supports.
he's played as much support in this series as June.
There you go. Well, we've got it once again. We've got back to the Lili. We have Tempo Storm going for a double support. Sonya and Vala, so they can do a lot of siege damage, just a lot of damage in general. Do you give the edge to Tempo Storm once again in this one?
I think so, just because of the fact that I feel like SSG forced the Task Tracer a little too much, and we saw Team Wish have success with that heavy forcing of that, but I don't know if we'll have the same results here on Warhead Junction.
I feel like in the draft overall with that last support being an option, or you could go into another safety net, it just ultimately there was almost no pick on the side of Space Station left that can really make a big shout out a win for me unless they make some wild heroic adjustments ultimately at this point. And other than going the Hinterlands Blast one shot onto a support, because both those supports aren't necessarily the greatest at burst healing is like the only way I really see them heavily recovering, or an amazing Tracer pick after pick.
Well, the teams are ready. Space Station needs this victory to tie up the series and go 1-1 with Tempo. But Tempo looking for another win on Warhead.
It used to be the top priority here for Tempo Storm. The results, they started out really dominant. Tempo Storm was locking in about, it felt like under 10-minute wins over and over and over again. And then the rest of North America started to pick up on it a smidge more, and suddenly it fell out of favor.
It's kind of like Gale Force Esports and Braxis Holdout. You develop a style and you teach other people how to play it as a result. I mean, what can you say when you see Roll20 get the record, right, for the fastest game in HGC on this battleground?
With the Lili picked up by Tempo Storm, I was wondering if we would still see the season Marksman Falstad build rather than just going full auto attack. But ultimately, because both of those supports are a bit more volatile to that burst-oriented play, this already indicates to me that Space Station has no interest in going into that maybe all-in burst-style strategy, and they're going for that slow, sustained style of play. And again, not confident that that composition can hold up to the composition that Tempo Storm has developed. This ETC Sonya double support Vola is terrifying objectively.
Yeah, putting a lot of emphasis in trying to get a blow up with your pulse bomb when you have things like Lieutenant Morales and Lili. Probably not going to have Hinterland Blast this time.
No. The one way like it can be made up for with this style of play. Hold up, Equinox with those blinds. You could see him miscalculating the damage, just not understanding how big of a trade we can see. Actually, not even up there. That wasn't even with a blind. He just flat out just didn't get any damage output. Was that armor? How did I miss that? The healing beam? By the way, Tempo Storm didn't even look twice. They just get the kill and walk away.
That does not bode well for Space Station and the mentality. But if there was ever a time for them to rise above an issue that's plagued them before, it would be this time, this potential final series for them. And they do get a kill with Jason flying in to take down Vala, and that'll even up the odds.
And that is exactly what Space Station's going to be looking to do throughout this game. If they cannot use the fact that they have a Taster Tracer, they should be trying to abuse that fall set. So really good transition from them. But they can't let up. They have to essentially have this kind of aggressive playstyle, this proactive playstyle throughout the entirety of levels 1 through 9 if they're going to take out Tempo Storm. We're 1 second away from both of the warheads spawning. Tempo will easily be able to pick up that bottom one, but Space Station got top for themselves.
Wondering what we're going to see from Tassadar here. Kala's Embrace would be ideal to have along with Tracer, but with the Poison Spear build, the chunking that Sonya can do with a focus attack and then Poison Spear later on, I wondered if we would see any change up, but it's just too good to pass up Kala's Embrace with the Tracer here. The amount of life steal she can get. We're 1-1 on Warheads though, Dread.
We are 1-1 on those Warheads, and yeah, I know that was just one spear that we saw Cattle end up dropping there, but post-7, those are things that we really can't see happening if you're going to pick that Sonya. The Poison Spear talent will come online. You heard Glarong already give the respect there to the impact that can have on the Tracer's health bar, and it is a large reason, not the only reason, but a large reason as to why this hero was end up picking up, so just keeping an eye on him and those spears throughout the rest of this game.
Close game 2 between the teams. One Warhead's been used. Space Station using it in the bottom lane to get some damage done to that fort. It's all about trying to open up one lane and get some keep pressure, keep down as fast as you can so that you put your opponent on a timer with the boss timer. This
is really well done for the members of Space Station, but they show very quick. Falset comes in with the flight. There's the pulse bomb on to June. It's enough to get themselves a kill, drop the recall, and it looks like they are out. Good 3-man power slide from Fury, the knockback, but the Tassadar shield and teleport from Brightwing are there.
Yeah, and that's the increased lifesteal that we see from Kala's Embrace.
Good
now
drag.
Casanova gets a pull in and toss back. Caterpillar in danger of dying, and he goes down for another kill. Space Station finding the picks.
Space Station finding the tools that they need here in this game. The only way that could have gone better is that they got the Warhead to boot. They have a bit of pressure on the camp up on bottom that Falset eventually is going to have to respond to. And it should be noted that now we see Space Station pulling the kind of cadence that maybe they should throughout this early game. But it's very important that, again, they do not let up. They cannot have that happen post-10 because Tempo Storm, again, when they hit their heroics, they're going to be a very different beast in these team fights.
Well, they're in a good position to put up a big fight over the next Warhead phase. Tempo Storm are starting to migrate toward the top. They get a camp so that they can have control over this lane. Try to make sure that they control vision of this point, but they don't want to show too much and show exactly what they're trying to do. A lot of people off the battleground. Space Station did get their camp here in the top lane too. Garrosh looking, Casanova spotted this out.
Both of the globals are mid and bottom, so they can teleport quickly up here. This is so tense. Tempo Storm, you know everybody has got to be trying to protect June. The boss falling now down to 50%. Falstad is here with the fight. There's the first knockback for Fury. A cooldown he's going to want in a few seconds. They go in as the boss goes down.
The members of Tempo Storm have the Warhead. Space Station gets Casanova on the point, but he's taking way too much damage, and he falls before Brightwing can phase shift in. Tempo Storm takes the boss.
Tempo Storm gets themselves a boss, and now we are sitting away from a lot more Warheads spawning up on the map. It is very likely that they can just transition outward and get these. Falstad immediately tried to kind of minimize the losses for Space Station Gaming, but Tempo Storm is not giving anything up to them. Warhead on bottom was consumed by Brightwing. Nice power slide, forcing a recall. Equinox has to burn all of his blinks to be able to get out of that one.
Yeah, that was a pretty scary spot to recall back to. The best thing that Space Station can do now is stop the rotation down to the mid so that they trade out on the Warheads. But Tempo Storm not being forced to use their Warhead on the boss, still being able to get a kill. Now they take out Tracer. The momentum swinging back and forth unendingly between the teams, with Tempo Storms are the ones that are going to take it.
And Tempo Storm, with these Warheads now being sent to this top keep and the boss marching in, they will pull ahead heavily in experience. These keeps are worth more experience than forts, for instance, by quite a bit. And so if they end up taking out these, I expect them to lock in those 10s. The Warhead was used onto the boss, though. In Tempo Storm, you can see that maybe their interest wasn't all in this as dominantly as I expected. At least they're trying to take it a bit slower, forcing Casanova to get the interrupt onto that Warhead.
Yeah, they interrupted the Warhead. This is staying alive. Equinox gets the shift. Som is blown up by the Pulse Bomb. Space Station are so close to heroic abilities.
You could see Tempo Storm, a bit of miscommunication, and now they're getting punished. Space Station is going to be able to chase all day. Cattle turns around. The drag is going to be thrown onto Sonya. She will survive, but only for a bit longer. When it's all said and done, Space Station get themselves their heroics. A lot of kills, but they are still struggling in the experience, or excuse me, not the experience, but the structure department, losing that top 4 and the keep front wall.
For Space Station, a lot of this game has come down to the fact that they have those double globals. Getting heroics first, knowing that they can take the fight, putting the fear in Tempo Storm, and stopping that Warhead from going off. That is a place where Tempo Storm was trying to start the timer for Space Station to lose the game if they couldn't make sure to equalize out the pressure. And now going down to the bottom, starting this boss, still no heroics for Tempo Storm. This should be a place where Space Station can try to do the same versus Tempo.
Absolutely, and with their Gust and Emerald Wind, even if Tempo gets on this, I don't think they can stand a chance. Cattle's going to go ahead and initiate. He got a lot of damage onto Equinox, but he is going to be just fine here. Take that passive healing. And the members of Space Station Gaming looking to make work here with this bottom boss.
Equinox healing back up with the life steal. The boss being protected by the members of Space Station. The Warheads are still directly in favor of Tempo Storm. And yeah, every spear that goes down is just about the life of Equinox.
So the bottom 4 will end up dropping. Space Station's still backing up this as if they have interest to keep sieging with it, but they have no warhead, so it's all about getting a flip. Good juke there from Cattle to make sure that Casanova's not able to get the flip, but he does end up getting a bit later. The taunt goes down, Pulse Bomb's used, but Cattle keeps himself up.
Yeah, he survives, and now Tiger JK is in danger immediately. Brightwing taken out, spear pulls Cattle into Jason. He takes a ton of damage. Casanova is low. Dimensional shift forced early on from Trees, and Som continuing the chase takes him down.
And Cattle just throwing down seismic slam after seismic slam onto the back line. Tempo Storm. It is just amazing the kind of back and forth and flow that we have experienced here on Warhead Junction. But I feel as now we're at a bit of a breaking point. They already have 2 warheads, and they're going to be able to pick up 2 more for themselves. If we see them use these effectively and open up some more of the map, I don't know if Space Station Gaming is going to get those double global kind of miracle plays that we've seen them happen here for the beginning parts of this game.
Yeah, it does really feel like it is Tempo Storm's patience with the nukes versus the globals of Space Station keeping them in the game. And Tempo Storm now pulls himself back in. They're still slightly behind in experience thanks to the global that Space Station has been using effectively in this game. But no keep down, a little bit extra keep damage for Tempo Storm, and that is the boss that will be up sooner than the bottom one for Space Station. 55 seconds until Tempo Storm gets an opportunity for that top boss.
When it does come down to that top boss, we've got to be looking at who has flat out the best boss control overall. There is no mosh pit, but they do have the stage dive. Strafe is a good AoE. Stim Drone and Lily, the double support. Everything about it for Tempo Storm is not a very good boss control composition. On the other side, though, we have ourselves the Mighty Gust and Emerald Wind, two of the best in the entire game. So I don't know if Tempo Storm can do this boss dance as we saw them experience at level 6 earlier into the game anymore. Now that these heroics are there for Space Station, they should feel very, very confident if they find a half boss that Tempo started.
Camp's pressuring multiple avenues of Tempo Storm. Equinox finds an opening. Polymorph is there. Pull Cattle back in. Tossed to trees and the rest. They'll take down Sonya. She couldn't get out. The rotation from Tempo Storm seemed like it would maybe be able to save her, but Space Station stuck with it. They take out Sonya, and that's no Sonya for 20 more seconds. Jason is pressuring the bottom lane. It kind of feels like maybe the pendulum's swinging the other way again, Dread.
Space Station Gaming, that was a very, very clean and clever initiation there. For a moment, there was a bit of a mistiming between the teleports and the Brightwing, but it was just enough for them to all get within range and get the punishment onto Tempo Storm, and setting the tone at a very crucial moment as that top boss now is here. Space Station Gaming, they march up. They're going to rid of this top wave. They don't have pressure up on bottom, which normally you would like to have with this double global. But again, they have the boss control advantage, especially if they get it 15 seconds from now with that Emerald Wind.
ETC and Brightwing are still absent from this boss. Tempo Storm, who has Sonya, they got Sonya back too fast. Space Station didn't get up there fast enough. They were wanting to clear out the camp. It gave vision to where they were at. Now, Tempo Storm are here. They're willing to fight for it.
There goes the first teleport.
4 nukes.
Jason takes the Ancient Spear. A lot of damage there. Casanova falls very, very low. The strafe is going to be used. 2-man power slide. Tiger JK uses the Emerald Wind before the boss goes down. It's still not going to be dead. There is nuke 1, nuke 2. The Gust goes down, and when it's all done, Tempo Storm, they get themselves a boss.
Casanova, great usage of double up to make sure that he could live when he was that low, but Gust early on, and the 4 nukes, that was all Tempo Storm needed to keep Space Station off of that point. Casanova being low just could pull people away from the point. But Tempo Storm knew they had the control thanks to the nukes, the solid nuke control that they have had this entire game, and they are finally going to be able to reap the rewards of taking down a keep.
My goodness, we are going to experience the nuclear launch of the lifetime here on Space Station Gaming. I don't know if they have the tools to be able to interrupt or stop this with their composition. Gus for another 18. Gilly, it is going to be, I mean, is this it?
Tiger did go down and get 1 nuke to try to defend this. Jason is getting a lot of damage on the boss thanks to the angle of that. We've got Emerald Wind up in a couple of seconds.
Warhead 1.
Same for Falstad's Gust, but the Warheads and the boss have been moving on to the core. There's the Emerald Wind.
90% onto the core. Second Warhead going down. The boss is doing work, and even though the Gust is there with 50% and more, brilliant taunt. But when it's all said and done here, the final Warhead drops in. Tempo Storm take game 2 over Space Station Gaming.
Just goes to show if you focus on the objective of Warhead Junction, you get that many nukes ahead of your opponents. When you don't have the global advantage even, things will turn out pretty well for you, right, Glau?
Yeah, man, Fury is looking damn good on Warrior now that he's back.
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you, in that last core push, he interrupted Tiger JK's nuclear launch, and that was actually crucial to the win, I think, potentially. And not only that, like the power slides in those boss fights, he was able to slide both of the boss control heroes, Falstad and Brightwing, when the boss was near approaching 15% HP. So honestly, huge shout out to Fury for that performance.
Sensing the fact to get that much pressure onto the Brightwing at the boss at that threshold was brilliant, right? Because when you're the Brightwing, you're legitimately going, okay, it's about 5%. Can I move up now?
Yeah,
like,
I only have one job. How do I do this?
It's literally just timing my E proper. I walk in and I drop the Emerald Wind. And so he's constantly gauging when he's moving in. He uses the power slide, got the Emerald Wind outside before the boss was even taken. It was... You're right. It's just clean.
And Cattle on the Sonya, too. I think had a couple moments where he got caught out and stuff, but overall, I think when it came right down to the actual engagements and team fights and not so much the macro rotation side of things, the Sonya play was very, very, very well good because, like, the spears, I think in actual team fights, he didn't miss a single spear that I saw.
I don't think so
either. And pretty much anytime you have Sonya in the game, if she's not missing spears, you're having a good time.
Well, Tempo Storm is now up 2 games in this best of 5, 1 more, and they will close out the series. We'll see if they'll do that versus Space Station after this.
One of the amazing things about all Blizzard games is the credits always start with game designed by Blizzard Entertainment.
It takes a Blizzard to make a Blizzard game. And I think that's true on, any individual game. It's true on World of Warcraft, it's true on Overwatch, it's true on Heroes, and it's certainly true on Kel'Thuzad.
Hundreds of people have worked on some form of Kel'Thuzad over the 20 years this character's been in existence.
The hero that since joining the team I've wanted to do the most, so I'm super excited to finally be bringing Kel'Thuzad to the game.
The players have been asking for this hero forever. We knew ahead of time this was a hugely requested character by the fans.
Where's KT? Where's Kel'Thuzad? Give me KT.
This is a moment where we can do something really cool.
The last time we had a chance to work on him was in Warcraft 3, and everybody's very, very excited to bring him back in a big way and into